I'm Nick Terzo, and you're listening to The Radical. I'm excited for today's show as I get the opportunity to have a conversation with an up-and-coming artist. Nothing makes a former A&R guy happier than speaking with a new, young talent about their process, drive, and struggles. My guest today releases her first full studio album titled Heaven's Just a Flight in April. The project is a very personal work which demonstrates huge emotion, heart, and determination. I'm excited for listeners to meet pop singer, songwriter Caroline Kingsbury. Up next, my chat with Caroline Kingsbury. Hello, Caroline. Thanks for joining me.
Hello. Thanks for having me over the internet.
It's nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
So as I mentioned, I'm excited to finally, I think this is in my 30s or 40s of these shows now. So I'm excited to have kind of a young artist who's enthusiastic and trying to find her way in this brutal world.
Oh, so. God. Yep, that's me.
Perfect. So you have a new record coming out. When's that coming? It's Heaven's Just a Flight. When is that?
Yeah. April 16th. It's my
Awesome.
debut. I've never had an album out in the world before.
What did you have prior? Did you have like EPs or just single songs?
Singles. It was just sort of like, I don't know. I've just been kind of trying to figure out my sound for a while, and also my identity kind of like intermixed with that. And took some singles, took some taking down of singles, to get to a place where I felt really confident in.
Right. And I mean, I know you attended Belmont University, yes?
I did, yes, for 1.5 years.
Okay. And was that for like their commercial music program?
For songwriting.
Songwriting.
Yes. I tried out for the voice program. I didn't make it because I didn't have a classical voice background or anything.
And how was that experience? I mean, how was that for you being at that school? I mean,
it was weird. I mean, it's a Christian school. So, and I actually was super Christian in high school. I was like actually converted believer person. And it kind of was just at the time, like the right fit for me because of my faith and then also like doing music. But it ended up being so much more than just being like a Christian music school or anything. There's so many amazing people that I met and just like amazing artists that have come out of there. I don't know if you know who Yeba is, Abby Smith.
I don't.
Yeah, her name is Yeba. She's like released like 2 songs, but she's like gained some like popularity on the internet because she has this voice that is like the pure talent, diamond voice, and I lived in the same dorm as her, and so there's just like people like that I went to school with, that were just amazing.
Right. So was your intent like the whole Christian music path then when you got there? I mean, were you?
No, it wasn't. I was doing folk music actually. I was starting out with folk. It was kind of like around the time that the Lumineers were very popular, and I was caught up in the folk feeling. Yeah.
Did you play guitar as a youngster? I mean, as you were growing up, or?
Well, I learned guitar when I was 13. So basically kind of just starting to become a human-ish time. And I learned it at school, actually. I took like a guitar class at school, and then after I did like a year of that, and then I just like stopped and then just started writing songs basically. So it was like more focused on like the songwriting rather than the skills. Yeah.
And aside from like the Lumineers who you just mentioned, I mean, who were your like really early influences like in your teen years?
Well, it's weird because when I was growing up, like pre-teen years, I wasn't allowed to listen to non-Christian music. So, but it's funny because both my parents, like, oh, there's my cat, excuse me. Both of my parents are actually cool people and have good music taste, but it was just this weird period of time where like that they got really caught up in it. And so no non-Christian music until I was basically in my preteen years. And I like started discovering like the Beatles. I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. Like just like, so I would say like my teen influences were definitely folk, and like the songwriting was like very important to me.
Right. And where did you grew up in Florida? Is that where you were raised?
Yes, I did.
Which part?
Melbourne, Florida, which is southeast of Orlando. It's like near Cape Canaveral. So I got to see the space shuttles launch from my front yard.
Oh, I'm so jealous.
It was so awesome. My grandpa actually was the director of NASA in Huntsville, Alabama. And so like my family, I have like a connection to like space stuff. My dad was like super into it. Because of that.
Yeah. Have you seen For All Mankind? It's on Apple.
No. Is it a TV show?
Yeah, it's a series they did around NASA and around like the early 70s. They changed the narrative a little bit about having women as part of the astronaut program.
Oh my
So
God,
it kind of flips it a little bit, the script.
Yeah.
But Huntsville's always in there,
yes,
the Cape's in there. So you would
that's where
it.
My grandpa was and where my grandma was as well.
Yeah, that is fantastic.
Yeah, it's weird.
So on this record, I mean, did you collaborate with some of the songwriting, or is all the writing yours?
Yeah, like I guess a few of the songs were collaborations. I'm not like a big like co-writing person at this moment, and I wasn't like when I was making the album, and I have done it, but I was mostly collaborating with my producer, Matt Bishop. And I had a producer I worked with before, but I worked more on the songwriting with Matt. So I collaborated on Heaven's Just a Flight, the chorus of 16, and then Fall in Love. And I worked with like a professional songwriter people, The Gifted, on Fall in Love. They're called The Gifted. They're great. They're great dudes. They're awesome.
I thought you were giving them like a high praise.
That's their produce. That's like their like writer names. The Gifted.
They gave themselves high praise instead.
Yes, so. They're lovely. They're great people.
Guys or gals or combo?
Guys, producer, songwriter duo. So it was like my first like professional songwriting, situation.
Session
situation, whatever. I forget being in my house for so long. Like what?
It's all good. It's all good. So I'm listening to the songs and the record. I mean, I get a sense, you're in a relationship, but I still get a sense you're a hopeless romantic, because that's what a lot of these sound like. So
yes, I mean, I always have been, but I think I became more of a hopeless romantic when I came out. Like when I was like dating men and thought I was straight, I kind of just like I'm never gonna get married, and I don't even like having sex with you anyway. I hope is this a PG situation?
No,
or is
I've accepted the R rating on Apple Podcasts.
Okay, so. I'm sorry. I should have asked before.
Yeah.
Oh my God. But
it's all good. What was that path like from you? I mean, obviously coming from a really devout Christian family, and your own beliefs were that way for a time. I mean, what was that path for you, and how did you navigate it?
It was a deconstruction. So, when I was a senior, I thought that I like knew myself, like in this religion and in this faith system. And I went to college and started like getting away from the like physical environment of all of these people kind of telling you what is right and what is good and what you need and what you want. And it was like pieces just kind of started flying off and cracking and showing me like, oh shit, like I've had this kind of like outer shell kind of covering my identity. And it was the same way, like it was like all part, like me coming out, my sexuality was part of that too. And it was something I had buried, and So I didn't fully like deconstruct from it until I was 21, basically. And so like I was a Christian from like the time I was like 13 until I was 21, which is a very like difficult time in your life. And it really influences you. So I just had to deconstruct a lot of shit that I was taught. Yeah.
So it wasn't, I mean, do you feel like that was something you did on your own, or was it a person that came into your life that helped you kind of trigger that? Well, was it you working it out on your own?
Well, what kind of triggered it was my brother getting cancer for the first time. He eventually passed away from cancer a couple years ago.
I'm sorry.
But the first time he got sick was like, I was like 19, like going into my second year of college and starting to have like symptoms of depression and anxiety. And I didn't know what was going on. And everything kind of like hit me around that period of time. Well, and I was also trying to make music at the time. And that's when I was doing like my folk project, which, I don't know. It all just is like, it's just like weird to revisit, but that was basically like that period of time.
So that tragedy in your life, I mean, kind of triggered you having to live more truthfully, because life is short.
Yeah.
And
or it just changed my whole perspective on life. And I'm glad it happened, and, obviously like not glad that I don't have my brother anymore. It's horrible, but glad that initial sort of like breaking of what I had built for myself started happening. So. Yeah.
And I assume the song "My Brother's Voice" is somewhat,
a
remembrance to him on the record itself.
Oh yeah. Well, basically when I wrote Heaven's Just a Flight, the title track of the album, right before he passed away. And it was when I knew he was starting. So he got sick like when I was like 19, and then he got sick when I was 23. And so it was like a good period of time where he was like fine, and we had like a normal relationship again after he was in remission. But then it just started going south. And I don't know if like anyone listening, like when like someone gets sick, it's like it happens like this, or it's like you're watching it kind of fall apart. So we were just watching him fall apart for months, and we didn't want to believe that he was going to die, but like I knew it, like we all knew it, but we didn't want to we wanted to believe that like something was going to happen, some miracle. So I wrote the title track like a month before he passed away, and I was like ruminating on how he would want me to look at his death and his passing. And my brother was an extremely jovial, smart, amazing person. So
younger or older than you?
He was older. So he was 33. He was a doctor.
Oh, wow.
Devoted his life to palliative care, which is end of life care. And he devoted his life to that after initially getting sick. Okay. So when I wrote the song, I just wanted to write something that felt like I could forever celebrate him in the way that I know he would want to be celebrated. And yeah, so it's weird timing, but it's nice to have, I don't know.
Yeah. It's a lovely song. The song I really love too is "Fall in Love." I think that song is fantastic. And I don't know, I love everything about it. So
Thank you.
It's a great song.
I wrote that when I was falling in love with my girlfriend, and this is my first girlfriend. So that was when the hopeless romantic was really coming out. Was like, oh my God, I'm in love with this woman. Oh my God. And that was how Fall in Love came about.
Yeah, it's fantastic. How long did it take you to make this? And I know, for a young artist, it's not like some labels handing you, $100,000 and saying, go make a record. So what were the obstacles to you doing this? I mean, assembling a team, being able to really pull this off as an independent artist.
I mean, I didn't know I was making a record. I was just writing music. And I started just becoming more comfortable recording myself. So I started just doing all my demos and everything. But whereas before I would seek out and pay a producer, and I like picked up the guitar. I had like ditched the guitar for a while after I was like over folk music. I'm like, fuck this. Like, but then I picked up the guitar again, and I picked up the electric guitar as opposed to the acoustic guitar. And it was basically just me learning how to use Logic and writing. And that is how the album was made. Literally, it took me 3 years. It was just an exploration of like what I can do, what is possible, what feels right, what can I push myself on, what can I physically do production wise, like that somebody else that like I hire couldn't do, you know? So I wanted to just like give myself like a real shot at like really trying to do it myself. And obviously I didn't do the entire thing and every single thing myself, but the initial ideas were all by myself. And in my room before I went to work at Trader Joe's, like I worked at Trader Joe's for 2 years, and like I would work like the 3 to 11 shift and then like write a song and then like download like the MP3 of it and then like listen to it like while I'm in like the stock room, like doing shit. So I'm like writing while I'm at work too. It was I have no fucking idea how it happened. And I just met great people along the way. And my former manager, Jeff Newberger, is this amazing guy. And we worked together for a few years just as I was really just trying to figure out what I was doing. And he introduced me to Peter Bauer of the Walkman. He was doing management at the time, but now he started his own label. And so basically it was just meeting people and, you know, having relationships, you know? So yeah. And I honestly, I didn't even get introduced to Bridget until this year. My manager now, I was introduced to by Peter, my label.
Bridget Wright, who managed Rage Against the Machine in their prime. So
she's the coolest, freaking amazing person. She is like, I worship her. She is
her picture's amazing. Next to the word loyalty. So
she yes, I really, really, really adore her.
Yeah, for sure. And during this process, I mean, is it hard, like, you know, as your skills improve as you go along, right? You're trying to figure this out. I mean, did you have to cast aside like a lot of the earlier stuff and say, I really was kind of not quite in my spot yet?
The thing about the album, though, is it's like a weird puzzle of my early musings and demos and things that turned into ideas up until literally the beginning of the pandemic last year. So the last song that I wrote for the album was Hero. When the pandemic had just started and the Black Lives Matter protests were going on, it was just like, it was crazy times. And so I forgot what I was saying. I'm sorry. What did I say?
Well, we were talking about how your progression as you progressed as an artist through this. Maybe the earlier stuff didn't make the cut compared to the later stuff.
The album is a conglomeration of all of it. Is you could basically hear which songs were the early ones and which ones are like the more recent ones and the more polished ones and the like more bedroom demo stuff. And like, I was really self-conscious about it at first, where it was like, this album is not cohesive. Like, shit, this is not. but what the person who actually convinced me to release this as an album was Pete. Fortune Tellers, he started his own label. He just really got me to see that it was like, I was putting out something very true and real and not super planned and super, you know, like you, like when you're like an established artist, you have things planned and everything is like thought out. And like, this is just, it's like I was just been throwing paint at a wall and then I made like my art. And so when he convinced me to make it an album, I saw it finally. Whereas like the individual songs that were like more demo-y, I was like, I don't like this. This isn't good enough, whatever. but as a whole picture, the whole album, it feels very true to me. Which is a nice feeling. It's a nice feeling. I didn't know that I was going to get here on my own.
Well, it's your first record and it should feel that way. Until you have a larger fan base and then you're going to feel like you're in service to them. Then it's going to get a little less pure maybe.
I know. That's what I think I was just, I didn't realize that. Like I thought I had to be polished and perfect. And like, I wanted to be, because I want to be, I want to do this as my career, obviously. But I think that was like really holding me back from making the true stuff.
So let me ask you, I know there's challenges to being a young artist. You've talked to a few of those as far as having to sustain yourself, working jobs, trying to be creative, working jobs. When I was an A&R guy, that still existed for most of my artists. The thing they didn't have to deal with was social media, right? They could spend most of their time on their careers and most of their times on becoming better musicians and touring. And it wasn't such a distraction. So I kind of wanted to read something that I picked up on your Instagram, if I may.
Sure.
And I want to talk about it because I think it's important to young artists and like some of the pressures you guys put yourselves under nowadays. In this social media thing. So this is from you. I don't know the date. I've been pursuing music as my career for long enough, and I'm starting to notice the toxic patterns of thought coming up over and over again. I find myself comparing myself to others, especially on social media. I'd myself focusing on the numbers and the outcomes and adding those up to determine my worth. Well, fuck that shit. I think you can do that with any career you pursue, but fuck it. I'm writing songs to make people happy, trying to be better at letting go of shit, but it's fucking hard. And I thought, wow,
thanks.
That's definitely a challenge of today for a young artist. And I think your honesty about that, talk about that a little bit. Talk about where you were at that day or whenever you posted that, and if you can remember.
No, you think that my biggest challenge has been dealing with social media and like my biggest challenge internally, I guess. Like it's so easy to compare yourself when everything is right there in front of you. And when you're just trying to build something, like the numbers are gonna be like little, it's gonna be little for a while. It takes time to build something. And I know that. And like the people that love me know that. And the people who like follow my music know that, but it can feel like you're not doing enough, or you're not good enough, or you're not posting enough, or you're not doing enough TikToks, or like you're not doing enough reels. You could be at this higher level, but you're not doing enough. So it always feels like I could be doing more when I just made a fucking 16 song album and now I need to be making TikToks every day. Like that's that's the expectation. And it's not that like my management or anything makes me feel that way. It's just the reality is like, if you're trying to build an audience, this is a tool to help you do that. And I think I'm still figuring out my place in it. Whereas I feel like some artists do it really well. And
they do.
They just, don't take it too seriously and have fun with it. And sometimes I find myself taking it too seriously, but then sometimes I find myself just having fun with it. And I just get kind of critical about myself sometimes with social media. And it's just really weird. It's really weird.
I feel you because, launching a podcast in this environment over the last 6 months with 2 million people out there, you do feel sometimes like a speck. And it's like, what is this all for, man? I'm busting my ass.
Right. Exactly. And when there are people that you can compare yourself to literally like on your phone, you're just like hanging out, looking at your phone and then not even thinking about your career. And then, you know, someone you really admire pops up and you're like, why am I not good enough to be there? What's wrong with me? Like, why? But like I said in the post, I'm recognizing when I get there and trying to just let it go, because I know I'm just making music to make people happy. Like that's what music is for. And I'm expressing myself. That's like literally it. Like there's not, you know, that's literally it. So I need to just stop fucking worrying so much.
Yeah. And look, but the harsh reality for anyone listening here is Spotify just released this week that they're uploading 60,000 songs a day to the platform. 60,000. Mm-hmm. And it's like it's drinking from a fire hose nowadays. And, you know, how does someone talented really cut through that?
Right. It's a lot of pressure is put on the social media side.
It is.
To cut through.
Yeah, and I'm still like an old like idealist that believes that if you make the right music, your audience finds you.
I'm the same way. That's what's kept me doing this. Is that I'm gonna try to just keep making stuff.
I believe that's still the truth. So
yes, I agree. I agree. I think it's easy to get very like, oh, the world is so fucked up and the internet is so fucked up. It's like, okay, let's calm the fuck down. It's always been really fucked up. And we're just experiencing a new level.
Yeah. And nowadays you live in Los Angeles, right? How did that move come for you? Was it more about being around a different type of creative community?
I followed a guy. I was in Nashville. Yeah, I was in Nashville after college and working, and I worked at multiple restaurants, like serving, and I was getting very burnt out on the Nashville scene. It's very small. And if you've never seen anything else, like I came from Florida, it kind of just feels like, oh God, like if I can't make it here, I can't make it anywhere. Like this sucks. So I was getting really burnt out, and I was dating a guy at the time, and he does like film stuff, and he's like, I'm moving to LA. And I was like, okay, I'll move to LA. Let's do it. But it ended up being like the absolute best thing for me. But I think I needed that push to get out of my comfort zone and to go somewhere uncharted.
Yeah. And it's a much larger creative community, and, you know, a lot of different verticals. It's not as insular as I've found Nashville to be. So
it is very insular, and also very like, it's not competitive, but it's not competitive like LA competitive. It's like we'll come to every one of your shows and like support you like other artists, but then like feel desperately insecure about like our own career, and like they could just like the not being honest about how you actually feel, because you just are so nice. You're in Nashville, you know, you just want to be nice. But I'm glad that I got out of that so that I could just be honest with myself, with who I was and what I wanted. I think it just took me getting out of like a familiar environment.
Yes. And have you done much touring like prior to COVID? Did you have some experience?
I mean, some, yeah. I mean, when I was in Nashville, I was singing in like background vocals for a band, and while I was on the tour with them, they were breaking up. It was my first tour. I also did like a living room tour with a friend of mine from Nashville. And then I did my first real tour in 2019, opening for Alex Leahy. And it was the most amazing experience of my life. The shows, I mean, like the smallest shows had like 15 people at it, but like the biggest shows had like 400 or 500 people, you know? And so it was like, I got like, it was the most, it makes me so happy to think about. And I'm so glad that I like got that in there before COVID, you know, like it was literally 2019 in August. It was also right before my brother passed away. So yes, wonderful experience. I loved it. And I can't wait to do it again.
That's fantastic. So let me ask you, is there an artist career that you think is a nice model for you, something you want to kind of emulate with your career? Is there someone that stands out?
Cyndi Lauper. I currently have very Cyndi Lauper hair, and it wasn't like me trying to look like her or anything. It just was like it happened, but it's very on brand for me because I'm obsessed with the 80s and I'm obsessed with Cyndi Lauper. But what I love about Cyndi is her music can be so fun and just carefree. But then she has time after time, which like the lyrics in that song are really fuck you up. Like, so what I hope my career can look, and also I like her social media presence so much. She's just so fun and like also so supportive of the LGBT community. Like I love her. Yeah. And just always like a heavy focus on songwriting, and she's an amazing performer and kind of like reaches across, generations and reaches across kinds of people and different kinds of music. And so, yeah, Cyndi.
Wow. I'd say that's a pretty good choice. That's a home run. So
I love her.
Yeah, very good. I love that. So, well, listen, I really appreciate you taking time to talk to me. I'm really excited for your record and for people to hear it.
Thank you.
I can tell how much work you put into it and how many obstacles you overcame to kind of create it. And that makes the music better. Unfortunately, it does. What it takes.
It does make the music better. The more shit you go through, yes, the music becomes better.
Yeah, let me throw up some more traps for you to try to get through.
Yes, you're like, let me just fuck up your life real quick.
Yeah. Here's how the gauntlet looks for a successful artist.
Yes, yes.
No, I don't wish that on you, but
oh no, it's okay. I accept life is going to be hard, and that's just life. And you just take it, and you try to do your best and be with the people you love.
Yep. Indeed.
Nothing is easy.
Your brother would be proud. So good job.
Thank you. Kyle is number one. Dedication of the album is for Kyle.
Awesome. As it should be. To Kyle.
To Kyle.
So, well, I look forward to seeing you live once this all passes, because I want to see how you do live.
Thank you.
And again, good luck with the release of the record.
Thank you so much.
For joining me.
You having me on. I really appreciate it. It was lovely talking to you.
You were very generous. It was nice to meet you.
Thank you so much.
All right. Stay healthy.
Okay. Bye.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for listening this week. To follow what's going on with this podcast, you can go to theradicalpod.com. theradicalpod.com. You'll find show notes and past episodes, and even a little swag there if you want a t-shirt or a hat. I would be honored if you'd subscribe at Apple or Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts. Till next week.